Instead of asking God, when will it happen? I started asking God, who do I need to become? I had to ask myself, if God gave me the vision tomorrow and resistance came with it, would I retreat? The version of you who received the word, the promise, the vision, and the version of you who sustains it are not the same woman. What if you think you've been waiting on God, but actually He's been waiting on you to become the person who can carry the promise? That revelation changed everything for me. Welcome to This Time Next Year, a series where I share how I'm becoming the woman who is ready. Along the way, I realized that most of the time we think we're waiting on God, but often He's waiting on us. In today's episode, I'm sharing how all of this came about. God gave me a vision that I'm not ready for yet, and I finally stopped pretending I was. I had to come to terms with the truth that when God gives you a vision, He does not give it to the version of you who is ready. He gives it to the version of you who needs to grow. And that realization humbled me because it forced me to stop romanticizing the promise and start examining the person. That's what we see in Genesis 10:10, which says, "Then one of them said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife shall have a son." And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. God gave a timestamp. I will surely return to you about this time next year. That means there was a set time attached to the promise. But what's interesting is this. God announced the outcome. He did not describe the inner work. Between the announcement and the fulfillment was a becoming. The Sarah who laughed in disbelief in that same chapter was not the same Sarah who would hold Isaac. Something had to shift in her. And I believe the same is true for us. The version of you who receives the word, the promise, the vision, and the version of you who sustains it are not the same woman. And that gap, that's where most of us struggle. Because we celebrate the promise but resist the process. When God brought Israel out of Egypt, He did not hesitate to tell them where they were going. He said He was taking them to a land flowing with milk and honey. That was the promise. Freedom, provision, inheritance. But then Exodus 13:17 through 18 says, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. But God led the people around by the way of the wilderness toward the Red Sea. The shorter route was near. It was accessible. It was logical. It made sense. But God deliberately did not lead them that way. Why? Lest the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. He avoided the short road because they weren't ready for war. Not because He couldn't win the war, because they would retreat. And that exposed something sobering. You can be delivered physically and still be undeveloped mentally. They were out of Egypt geographically, but Egypt was still in their thinking. They had a slave mentality. Slaves survive. Sons steward. Slaves think about today. Sons think about legacy. And if they faced opposition too soon, their instinct would have been to run back to what was familiar, even if it meant bondage. And I had to ask myself, if God gave me the vision tomorrow and resistance came with it, would I retreat? Because we love to pray for expansion, but expansion comes with exposure. We pray for increase, but increase comes with pressure. We pray for influence, but influence comes with responsibility. And if internally you and I still crave comfort more than capacity, we will sabotage what we prayed for. Deuteronomy 8:2 explains the wilderness. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that He might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep His commandments or not. He led them the long way, not to waste their time, not to embarrass them, not to frustrate them, but to humble them, to test them, to reveal what was in their hearts. The wilderness exposes what triggers you, what tempts you, what you complain about, what you idolize, what you run back to when things get hard. And if we're honest, many of us don't want exposure. We want elevation. But elevation without exposure is dangerous. Because if God elevates you before your character is strengthened, the weight of the promise can crush you. The long way is not delay, it's development, it's protection. Because if they had taken the short route and faced war too early, they would have gone back to bondage. And some of us are praying for speed when what we actually need is strengthening. When God showed me the vision, I was excited. But then he started showing me, the inconsistencies, the emotional reactions, the places where I shrink instead of standing firm, the habits that would not survive the next level, the areas where I still avoid discomfort. And instead of being offended by that revelation, I had to embrace it, because the delay isn't denial, it's refinement. God is not withholding the promise. He's strengthening the person who will carry it. So instead of asking God, when will it happen? I started asking God, who do I need to become? What disciplines do I need? What mindset needs to break? What habits need to die? What patterns cannot follow me into the next season? Because stewardship requires structure. Vision requires capacity. Promise requires maturity. This series is not about manifesting. It's not about pretending you're ready. It's not about hype. It's about intentional preparation. It's about becoming before receiving. It's about alignment before arrival. The Israelites weren't just walking towards land. They were walking toward identity. From slaves to son, from survival to stewardship. And identity transformation takes time. So maybe we're not waiting on God. Maybe God is building in us what the promise will require. And this time next year, I don't just want to have it, I want to be ready for it. If God has given you a dream and you're ready to embrace your journey, feel free to join me in any capacity you feel led to do so. Some of the things that have helped me and you may find helpful as well are: take some time to reflect on what areas of your life need refinement before the promise arrives. What habits or mindsets need strengthening? And who are you becoming in the process? Because growth doesn't happen by accident. For those joining me on this journey, I've created a space that consists of tools and resources that I'm personally using to help me on this journey. And maybe you'll find them helpful as well. The link is in the description below. Let's prepare, because this time next year, we won't just talk about it, we'll be ready to steward it. I'll see you in the next episode. Have a great day.